Okay, so today I'm gonna explain the how to stat. So basically, how to build a unit. This is going to be long, so buckle up, sheeples. This is going to be a long video, and I will try to put a timestamp because there's a multiple elements you have to go through before you can actually explain how to build a unit in the last origin. So let's start with the basic stats and what the hell do they do. So in the last origin there are 6 stats that you see on the character panel. Only 6 of them is adjustable, and there are few more stats that's not in the character panel. Actually, there are 8 stats because there is an element to adjust, but there's a few more one that doesn't show up here. So let's go through what the stats are. HP is HP. I'm not gonna explain what that does. Only thing you have to consider about the HP is that the sometimes unit has condition for HP, and then there's a phase. I guess there's a HP limit where unit is considered as a broken state. I'll explain that a little bit later, but that occurs at certain specific percentage. Next one is attack. This increase damage of the unit if you increase it. Simple. Defense is like an armor. It's weird in the last origin that the armor is linear, and it's also doesn't flat out. So armor is effective as long as you have more. It's always effective, but there are limits to what armor can do into some specific situations. This is the action potential, sort of speaking. Usually we call AP. So this is how much unit can. This is like points that unit gains for every round ish. So Last Origin is a turn-based game, and this action point is supposed to control how fast unit recharges. Yeah, it's how fast unit recharge this action point to execute. So this is not really action point. This is the action point rate, recharge rate. Next thing is critical chance. Same thing, critical chance. It's chance to inflict critical damage. Next one is the accuracy, and this is how accurate can unit hit a land to an enemy attack if it decides to attack. And evasion is how much unit can evade from enemy attacks. So simply speaking, these two go together. As in, these are basically counter each other. If enemy has high accuracy, you want to have a high evasion, and vice versa. If enemy has high evasion, you want a high accuracy. Attack and defense goes kind of together, but the point, there's just some other a lot of things has to be considered for actual damage calculation. So it's not really back to back. So and then there's also elemental resist. So there is fire, ice or water, and the electric resist. Everyone has a 0. Passive sometimes give electric resist, such as certain resist things, such as No, my way. if you go to the platform, you know, some unit has like 50% fire resist, 30% electric resist, and it comes with the this passive too. So you know, you have to consider what the percentage is. And there's a one more stat that doesn't show. It's the, and it usually doesn't show up. It's amount of the debuff resist or debuff chance to land on it. That doesn't show up, nor in the actual game or actual stages that you enter. It doesn't show up, but certain enemy has chance to evade debuff. Doesn't show up unless, but it says sometimes it says it. Sometimes it says it has chance to evade some debuff, and so enemy can evade the debuff. Also, there is a chance to land the debuff on the our Viroid, but we do not know exactly what that is. So you gotta consider that as 100% until it says otherwise, right? There are specific passive that does percentage but doesn't show up as well. So those are the stats that the Last Origin has. Moving on to what we can do, what we can change on the stats. So as I mentioned, there are 8 stats and there are some hidden stats, but we're gonna just consider for the 8 stats that we have. Among these, we can only change usually when we build the units. That's without any equipment, and we build based on the 6 stats that we can change. So if you go to the upgrade parts, you can put a point on these 6 stats. Let me just change the unit to better represent what I meant. Going back to Tiamat. Boom. So you can change attack, you can change defense, HP, accuracy, evasion, critical chance. And each point has, so you can put each point in there, and that's gonna increase different amount of the stats. So for instance, attack increased by 3, right? Defense increased by 1. HP increased by this is 16. Yeah, 16. Accuracy increased by 1.5%. Evasion increased by 4.4%, and the critical chance increased by 0.4%. And depends on what you want to build. You want to min-max this. So when you actually try to build a unit or a team, you gotta consider every single passive, every single buff, every single equipment to possibly min-max it such that it will work. You can try to do something like all evasion so that the unit's gonna evade every single time, or you're gonna increase damage as much as possible so that it will kill it one shot, something like that. Or you'll have enough defense that it will take no damage whatsoever. And then you want sometime put some critical chance to have, land 100% time critical damage. HP is kind of iffy. There are certain passive that activate depends on the HP, and usually it's completely meaningless in terms of that. So I'll go through one by step by stat, which one, so how we generally build a thing, and then what you should consider on the each stat. So before doing that, I gotta explain a little bit about how do we get to here. So if you notice that you can see that the max level is 300. It doesn't mean this is 300. it means that you can put up to 300 points in here. And every time unit goes level up, you get a 3 point. So she has 95 level, and she has 285 points. And multiply by 3, you get that number. So if she goes up by one more level, 96, she'll have 208 points. And that's how you're going to get this points to distribute along all the stats. The problem is, sometimes, when you actually acquire a unit, for instance like this, you get max level 30. So you can only put level 30. And if you go all of them, that's only like what? 180 points you can put in. But you don't want to put all of them in equally. You want to put the specific ones. So you have to increase the cap to put more than what you want. Like you want to put 60, but you can't because it's only 30. You have to increase the cap. And increase the cap is done by feeding other units. Usually, I'm going to say usually, at almost 99% time, you put these things that looks like a random unit. These are, I guess, unit that you cannot use on the stage. They're just dummy, and these are meant to be used for increasing this cap. So you can like this one increased by 11 level, and this one increased by 11 level. More you put it in, more level it's gonna go up, and this is not linear, so higher level requires more of this unit. Well, actually, yeah, it's not linear. Definitely not linear. So you could put the regular unit, but it is advised to just grind them because they are better to grind these and buy these from the shop. Buy from the exchange, not a shop, I guess. Different rank gives different points. So this is SS rank, gives 11 level, and the A rank gives only 3. And the amount of level you can think about is SS. If SS rank is 1, you can think as S rank being 0.5, and you can think of the A rank being 0.25, and then B rank is kind of weird. You have to get 3 B rank to get equivalent of A. I don't know why. Well, so not for this one. 1.5 for B to get equivalent to A, and I don't know why, so don't ask why. It's how they made the damn game. So, and depends on the types of the unit. So light attacker give attack accuracy. Light tank give HP and defense. Flying attacker give attack critical chance, and so on. And the flying tank give evasion, and so on. And different one gives different stats. So it depends on the type, you get a different stats going up, and depends on the rank, how much you can go up. And you can buy these, you can exchange them from here. And I advise you not to use the regular unit, just use these, or during the event you get these a lot, so use these. And absolutely there's no reason why you should do all level 300, because you don't need it. There's a rare case that the unit requires 1 step for 300. You don't need to it. I'm just doing it, so it's okay. You'll get OCD, then you do it. but you don't have to get all to level 300. If you want to all to level 300, like I said, if SS was considered as 1, you need 94.25 of this, 94.25 of HP defense, 94.25 of HP accuracy, 94.25 of attack critical chance, 92.5 of evasion, 92.5 of accuracy and critical chance, and half of that, which is 47.25, because there's no way you can do it with a B. Just go for 47.25 of attack and 47.25 of defense. If you put that in all in the one unit, you get to level max 30, max 300. You don't have to. You will see that I don't use this one at all, and I don't use this at all. And there's a reason why. There's a reason for it, because this one gives attack and the accuracy at different ratio. Every stat gives same ratio, except of course evasion, attack and defense. But everyone is 1-to-1. But this one gives attack 3, accuracy 1, and this gives attack 3, critical chance 1. So keep in mind that you guys can use this, but I don't at all, because they give different ratio and it's really complicated to calculate. You have to max level 300. Yeah, so that's how to get the stat points and how to increase the cap. Come on. Now building units. So okay, let's just think about this logically, and let's say we don't care. We just care about single unit. This unit, and we want to build it. So how do we build it? There are different types of units in the game. So you have this sword thing is the attacker, the shield thing is the tank, defender, whatever you want to call it, and this gear looking thing is the support. However, a unit can be tank but can be attacker. Unit can be support, can be attacker, and sometimes the attacker can be a tank. Not usually, but it can be done. If you want a really, really weird setup, it can be done. So these is just meaningless in terms of building things. It's just a matter of how you want to build a unit. But there are somewhat correct way to build a unit, and there are somewhat wrong way to build a unit. But if you want to build if you want to build this attacker as a tank, you can do it. It's just not as effective as some other units. So keep in mind that these types of unit doesn't matter. Usually matter because that's what they're good at. What I'm saying is there's always exception, and you're supposed to build it kind of based on that, but there's exception and you can do it otherwise. So funny enough, the game goes to 2 different types of build and 3 extra for the exception. So the first type is so you either build for attacker or tank, and that is the only way the game is, well, usually what I found to be case. You either build it to damage the enemy, or you either build it to so either get attack and survive so that it can survive longer, or survive long enough to buff other units. So there are only two things that you need to accomplish: either do damage or survive. In any other case, that's the main category. So, and attack is obviously you want to build for more damage, higher critical chance, and you don't care about the other three at all, the other four. Now, in terms of survivability, you either go for evasion or defense / HP, depends on how much HP you want to put it in, but usually you don't use HP, and there's a reason for it, and I can explain it later why. So it's either two categories of being attacker or being a tank. And let's go with the tank first, because that's easy to explain. Really easy to explain. The tank has two types. As in survivability, you either go all defense or you go for all evasion. You don't go between, you either go for one of them. And there's a con and pros and cons for that. Mainly if you want to build it all evasion, that unit should have evasion buff in their passive. So she is the best evasion tank in the game, and she buffs 90% evasion, 45% evasion if she attacks, and she does additional 30% evasion, and then it stacks 3 times, and then she has immune to removing evasion, or if she get a buff, she removes it afterward. So she is the best evasion tank, and therefore you build her all evasion. You could, in theory, build her in all defense. However, that will be stupid, because you'll be wasting the evasion buff for a unit. Or you could build tank, pure tank. What I mean by is defense. So you can build it every single point on the defense, and they can take any much of damage as possible, but their HP won't go down as much as the other unit, because defense in this game is linear and does not change. The effectiveness of defense does not decrease more you have. It's basically flat linear. More you have, better tanking the capability of the unit has. Unless the enemy has either elemental damage, which bypasses the defense, or they have armor penetration. In that case, there's other two types of a defense skill that you can improvise. One is the damage reduction, and the other one is the shield. So those are usually in passive and cannot be changed by the stats. So for now, there's only two types, either defense and evasion. The HP is a funny one, because if enemy has a lot of armor penetration, or they just simply have elemental damage, then she is, if you have all the defense, it's equivalent to not having at all. In that case, again, if you don't have damage reduction or shield, you want to put HP. But HP is not that effective, right? Because you only get 16 points. So you rarely change HP. There is no units does damage based on the amount of HP they have. There are units that does HP if they don't have a lot, and it's a percentage base, so it doesn't really matter to increase it. You'll notice sometimes people have this kind of weird HP ratio, 359 by 2211. She's like below 20%, and that's the cut line you see on here. It's considered as a broken state, and that triggers at 20% of HP. If unit's HP goes below 20%, it considered as a broken state, and then they won't recover their all HP at the end of the stage. So unit will forever, unless you heal them, will have HP below that level. And sometimes, you see people doing that. It's because their passive is active by HP. So her passive is below 25%. That's when it activates. And is it 20% or 25%? Let me get that clear. I believe that's 25%. My bad. 25%. Yeah, that's 25%. 1/4. So if it reaches 1/4, it's considered a broken state. And unless you heal them in here, it's going to be stay like this until other unit dies because they have no longer no HP, or you heal them. And you can technically control that 25% cut line using the equipment, and that's really complex thing. Well, it's not that complex. All you have to do is put this HP item equipment, which increased by 600. Her max HP become 2.811, and the 1/4 becomes 700 something. Whereas if you take it out, 1/4 become 550. So you can temporarily increase the cut line, but as soon as you remove that HP equipment, the percentage count is based on what current HP is, not what's remaining. So you have to just consider that, and then you can control the thing. Alright, so we talk about the surviving type, and usually tanks are either defense tank, HP tank, defense tank or evasion tank. Sometimes you build an attacker, but those are the case. And for the support unit, you either build them attacker or tank. So it goes based on the fact that can this support do significant enough damage to an enemy if you build it correctly. How to check that? It gets complicated, but if you look at we're gonna find level 1 unit and explain it better. Let me just choose one that I can properly use. Where the hell is level 1? Nope, I can't use that. There we go. So you have attack 50, right? But this unit doesn't do 50 damage. No sir. She does 58 for the first active. For second active, she does 54. What does that mean? She basically has multiplier. She has 8 over 50, about 1.16 multiplier based on attack. So if I were to increase the attack on her, can't do anything because she's level 1. But if I were to increase the attack, that will increase as well. And this one has 1.08 multiplier. And if you level up, the multiplier increases. So at level 10, becomes a 97. So that's about 47 out of 50. So that's, God, 1.94 multiplier. And 74 active 1. So based on the looking at the multiplier, you can possibly estimate whether you're going to build that unit attacker or defender. This is more apparent when it goes to their passive 1, passive 2, passive 3, active 1, active 2, active 3, because their own stats doesn't tell you anything. Attacker usually have a more attack, but it doesn't mean anything until you actually calculate the damage based on their active and the passive. So for instance, Eternity here is going to be built as attacker just because her damage multiplier is stupid. Right? This is 2704 and 6367. She is already 2 times the attack, more than 2 times attack for damage. As well as this one does, 3 times of damage, more than 3 times, and she is defender. So you build her as attacker because it's just stupid. It's better off doing damage, and all her passive supports this. She get a attack multiplier, she does the armor penetration, gets more damage. So based on their passive and multiplier, you either choose that unit's going to be attacker or tank. And the support usually exactly separate into either tank or attacker. For instance, Eada is considered as she's a support, but we build her as attacker because her damage is pretty high, and she has armor penetration. So people use her as attacker. You could, in theory, use her as a tank and support, but it becomes useless because there are units that does that what she does better. So it's all about min-maxing, and then you have to follow what to do. Alright, all the preambles. Now, okay, so now you got kind of an idea how to separate between the attacker and then defender. But what about evasion? So we talk about defender as just armor tank or evasion. I talk more on the armor, how the damage is kind of scales with the armor. So in the armor section, damage calculation is done by, in general, if it's a physical damage, no elemental damage, is that if the enemy has a damage of 1544, if your unit has a 585, you subtract the number. That's it. That's why I'm calling this linear. So more armor you have, more damage you can neglect. So if enemy has no armor penetration and has low attack, you go for defend. And evasion calculation is a little bit different. In terms of evasion is based on the enemy accuracy. So more enemy accuracy they have, higher evasion you want to go. And sometimes some unit has a lot of accuracy and you cannot evade. In that case, you have the evasion tank either have to take a hit for the enemy because they have enough HP to tank it out, or use other mean to tank it out. So in late game, very late game, evasion tanks are really not doing well at the late game compared to the armor tank, defense tank, because in late game enemy has high accuracy. So in the later in games, you're not going to use evasion tank more than defense tank. In the very early game, evasion tank is the king because you can't hit it, you don't take any damage. No matter how many times they try, you're not gonna damage. Whereas a defense tank, if you hit enough, it will die. So usually the early games it depends on the evasion, and then late game is depends on the armor defense tank. There's one more concept for the evasion is that the solo unit. So there are various considered as a solo unit in this game that act as a very early game noob friendly unit. Those are Lint. I'm calling it Lint, but Lindworm right here. Valkyrie. And then Peralt, but we call it Peril because it's too long. And yeah, I think that's it for early game. Yeah, those three you build in evasion. They're considered a solo unit because of two criteria. One, they have a counter attack, so if enemy attacks you, they attack back. Two, they have passive that increase evasion. So in early game, when enemy doesn't have a high accuracy, you can just put an evasion onto them and then clear the stage without any help up to a certain point. So in late game, they don't be used at all. Has to be in very early game. You could try to use it on the late game stage, but it just falls apart. So those are the units that has exceptions. In the higher rank one, you might see Harpy, Tiamat. Who has evasion? Charlotte, maybe as evasion, but because high rank ones are used for the late game as well, they don't tend to do that at all. Like I said, late game evasion is not that great. Alright, moving on to the next one. So now we're gonna really discuss how we're going to put our stats. And this is I have been talking for freaking 38 minutes, and this is how really difficult to explain, because there's all different concepts that has to be stacked onto together because that's why I've been like rambling for 38 minutes discussing what all these things comes down to. So simple enough, once you choose either attacker, defender, if it's a defender, just put either all armor or all evasion. And that's pretty simple. Attacker is kind of complicated. She is going to be today built for attacker because she's attacker. Her multiplier is pretty good, 1774 times 4001 high, 10,690. Yeah, she is definitely attacker. You could technically build her evasion because her stat has evasion 80% and 27%. But do you want to? No, definitely not. So how do we build this? Now we have to discuss about accuracy. So we know we're not gonna use defense, HP, because we don't need it. Evasion, we don't need it. So only three things we're gonna consider is attack, accuracy, and critical chance. And then we have to think about accuracy. So as I shown before, accuracy increased by 1.5 each point, 1.5%. And these are better points. These give a better I guess, effectiveness compared to the attack, which is 3, or 0.4 for the critical chance. So, alright, we can probably have, you know, a lot of points on the, you know, it's very effective. Let's put a lot of points on the accuracy. Wrong. You're not supposed to do that because the accuracy is only enough, only needed because you need to land a hit on the enemies. Let me demonstrate by going into the dungeon. Because there's no other way to demonstrate this in the actual dungeon. So we're gonna choose a 4-8, and 4-8 is absolutely has one of the boss has, I guess, early boss that the early users struggle. Where is it? Let's use her. So this one is I built for all evasion. She has accuracy of 120%. Right? I'm going to put whatever, doesn't matter. Right? And then we're gonna send it. Just for the demonstration why the accuracy, even though it's a very effective stat, you can't put it a lot. You have to put very little amount. So if you go to dungeon, you see these enemies, and if you click on them, it will show you what's the percentage chance of landing a hit. So this enemy has, if she attacks it, it has 89% chance to hit. How does it calculate? If you click on it, her accuracy is right now 149. That means this one has evasion of 50%. If I can just click on it, 60%, sorry. 100, yeah. 60%, and she has accuracy of 169. 149. So 149 minus 60 give you 89% chance to hit it. Same on here, you have a 69 because this one have evasion of, come on. Let me just click on it. 80%. So it's a 20% higher. So she have only 69% chance to live. So effectively, she want to have accuracy of 189. Sorry, 180. If you do that, you will land a hit on this boss, and you will be able to hit everyone because they max their evasion currently it's at 80%. So let's just do it once, see what happens. Yeah, she landed a hit. Now enemy misses it because she has high evasion. She has about 160 evasion. We'll check it after this run, after this round. Notice that she misses. She missed it. So if you see her, she has about 240% evasion. Enemy has only 140%, 185% accuracy. So by doing math, alright, this one has 55 chance to land a hit on the her. Because 240 minus 185. Yeah, 55% chance. The reason why she missed on it, because it got a buff. It got a buff from enemy dying, gets a 25% evasion, 25% evasion, 60%, 30% evasion. So it has 140% evasion now, but she only has 149%. So next one, she only has 8.99%, 9% chance to hit. Boss, same. 39 lower, 39 lower, 29 lower. So you cannot land a hit if you don't have a high enough accuracy. Let's go back. Yes, this is why this is a very complicated process. You know, you have to consider every possibility of how to build a unit. So should we increase this to a lot? Like, I don't know. Let's put 150 points. Wrong. The reason being is that because you only need accuracy just enough to land the hit. Afterward, every point you put it in is wasted because it doesn't matter if the enemy has 100% evasion. As long as you reaches 200% evasion accuracy, the rest of the point that goes up there is absolutely wasted. So most of the time, you do not want to put the accuracy high enough, but just enough to land the hit. And it comes from the wisdom of a crowd that we have found out that it's around 200% that we want to use as accuracy in average. So rule of thumb, just for the crowd, wisdom of a crowd, you go for 200% accuracy. That's it. You could go more, definitely. You could go less, definitely. Depends on the unit. But most of the case, enemy has around 100% evasion, plus minus 50. Sometimes goes up to 300 evasion or 400. Then you really need high accuracy unit. But the one thing about the accuracy is that you can also increase by item. And equipment can also increase maximum of 84%, whereas the other stats doesn't increase as much as the this accuracy items. So 84% is around 56 points, right? This is like a really high, the beta version. If you use a 70, that's around 46 points. Whereas if you use the attack, which goes by 3, this is only 33%, and the beta version is only 40 points. So using an equipment to increase more points on more points based on per point, accuracy is better. Accuracy equipment is better. So you put less point on the accuracy than attack or critical chance. This is the 36.6% divided by 0.4 will give you 84 points. So you want to use critical chance chip and the accuracy chip to increase those stats rather than actually using points to do it, because these are more efficient than actually putting points on it. So 28% is also pretty high. It's about 70 points, right? It's around between these values. This one was what was it? Can't remember. 46 points, and this one was like 56 points. So you want to put as less accuracy as possible on the point and use the equipment as much as possible. One other way to get the accuracy is from the core link bonus. I'll make a separate video on this one. This requires another video because it's gonna be on a long one. But you can get accuracy on here. Usually you don't do that because it's just not effective as using our equipment. Alright, so let's build her. 200%. It's just general wisdom, and I'm building it for generic reason. If the stage that you're using this unit requires higher evasion, and you can't do it without item, items are very limited to slots. There's only 4 slots and 2 slots for chips, and then 1 slot for gear and 1 slot for OS. You can't met that requirement, then you can put more. Otherwise, for generic purpose, I'm saying again, generic purpose, you put 200. Now, the most hardest part, critical chance. So since we done with the accuracy, you have only 2 points to consider. One is critical chance, and one is attack. Again, I have shown you that the critical chance is more effective to use equipment than the attack or accuracy chip. So you should put as less as possible, and going over 100 does not help you at all because it doesn't do any more damage, nor there are very few units, few debuffs that can decrease the critical chance. So you go with 100%, and this is where the second most failure happens. It's the first most failure of the unit dying is because they don't land a hit. Second is you don't land a critical chance to kill it one shot. So this is very important. Accuracy is as important as possible, but this is very more important to maximize the damage. Problem is that the unit itself gives a buff. So she gives on here 14.5% on herself. So it's red on herself. She gives 14.5% critical chance, and and that's it. She gives a 14.5% chance of a critical chance on herself, and it's not conditional as long as she's in the front. So you want to put less than 14.5% on the critical chance, and because she's a core linked, she get an additional 10%, 2% each, up to 5 maxed. Remember, the equipment's gonna give her better. It's better to use equipment, so we're gonna put 1 in there, which is 33.6%, which raises her critical chance to 53.6%, and we know she's gonna get 14.5%. So that's about, if you add 14.5%, that's gonna be 68.1, right? I can't show it exactly, but because it goes by 0.4. So you think it might be, we just have to increase it up to the point that she doesn't get the, we only have to do 85.6%. Wrong again. You can't do this despite that she'll get 100% on the critical chance. Is it because that she's gonna get used with another unit? If you are using her just solely by herself, this makes sense. But the problem is you're going to use more than one unit, and likely more if you do some kind of really hard stage in the end game. So you want to reduce this number even more. Usually, another wisdom of a crowd, we have found out that the generic buff that unit gives is around 14.5%. Like she has, so other unit does a 14.5%. You can look at it on the different units, and it's more, oh my god, clear if you look at the support units. She gives 14.5% critical chance, additional 14.5% to herself though. Yeah, so she gives 14.5%. So other unit can buff units, or herself, or itself, or all of them. So you need to consider the effect of the other unit giving a critical chance. And they can also give the accuracy. But the wisdom of cloud is just go with the 200%, and then rest is just done by buffing it or using the right equipment. Same thing on here. We just gave her this one, and we're gonna add up to -29. So we're gonna give her 71.2%, plus 14.5% from herself, and another 14.5% from the buff, which is 29%. And if you add a 29, you get 100% critical, 100.2% critical chance. And that 0.2 is wasted, but sometimes very rarely enemy gives a minus debuff critical chance, so we just go over it by 1 point. You can do 70.8%, it doesn't matter. That 0.2 is not gonna be showing up very rarely, so you go by 71.2%. And then the rest, because we're not putting it on the defense, HP, evasion, all in attack. All in attack, baby. There we go. Now you're done. Now you can use her. This is a generic build for this unit that has 200% accuracy, 71.2% critical chance, and 233.8 damage. Now if you look at the attack damage, it's gonna be 5,284, 14,088, which is up by 4,000. And we can probably equip her with the more attack, 120 attack, 2578, goes by 5827, 15,534. So you're gonna increase her other stats based on equipment. Now, what if she has to be used alone, right? Then she won't reach the 14.5. She won't reach it to, like 100% critical chance. Then you use equipment to cover that. So for instance, this equipment gives 20% critical chance, so she's gonna go over, but whatever. But it also gives accuracy, and maybe you don't care, you just we're just gonna go with 100. It's just gonna increase the attacks so that she can do damage even without a critical chance. 85% is good enough, something like that. So you min-max it based on the gears. This is generic build, not a specific build. So you do it min-maxing after you build it generically with the equipment. Depends on your team and depends on your how you want to use that unit. Sometimes some units go together by one by one. For instance, you can look at these trio. Like this, and these three are used together because that's how they're designed. Their passive attack all designed to work together. So if you look at their stats that I use, I have not given a single critical chance any of the units except some point on the accuracy. And it's because by using like this and just based on the equipment, I can get them 100% critical chance from 6%. So to using by side, and I am not going to use them without together because they're completely useless by themselves. So in that case, you do different build. You build a specific for that case, and you build based on the team, not for unit. And if you want to do some weird specific stage, for instance, you want to do 8-8. She is specifically built for 8-8. I had to put more accuracy on because enemy was evading. I had to put the critical chance to be maxed out with the equipment, of course. But she does not give herself buff, nor she gets a buff from the other one, the specific team that I'm using. So she gets 100% critical chance based on the equipment, and then rest will goes to attack. So she can build some specific unit for a specific case and for a specific stage. There's one other thing that I need to talk about. Just one last thing, which is a reset. Because you can technically reset the stat distribution. So she recently got the buff. She recently got the rank up feature. So she was used to be A rank. No, was she? Yeah, she was A rank, and now she's SS rank. And one of her passive gives critical chance 7% on level 4 and 10% depends on how many light type unit in the team. So if there's a 4 light type unit teams, she gets 10% per each times 2 for herself. She also gives a critical chance to the allies, 10% up to 40%. So she just gets 80% critical chance by herself, just being with the team, and then she is useful to be within the team. So in that case, I do not need any single point on the critical chance because she gets 80%. So what you do is now I have to change this because I'm wasting my points on the critical chance that I can put it on the attack. In that case, you use this item to reset. So if I use this, I get the points back, but the max level stays in there. That's the key importance. Max level stays in there and the points gets back, and you can redistribute it as much as possible. And even though I get 80% by on her passive, that's going to be 91.5%. I'm going to get 14.5% from the one of the light type attacker in the team. So I don't have to worry about it. I can put her everything on the attack. Or technically you can probably put her some accuracy, but she's already at the 210%. So it depends on how you want to use it. I would probably incline to put it on the all attack, or I would make her 300% accuracy and let her deal with very high evasion enemies. Because she does good damage by just having nothing on there. If she, by multiplier, so she has like 3687 times 1631. That's about twice 2.2, and that's around 3.3-ish, 3.5 or 3.3-ish. So that's how you do it, and that's how you reset the thing. If you put on even a single point, you have to use this item to do it. So be cautious when you use it. And this is pretty rare. You get it every month and you get it exchanged sometimes in the event item. So be cautious when you use it. And that is the basic how to do stats on the Last Origin. Alright. Next time I'll probably do the link bonus. That's going to be a lot shorter than this. But this has a lot of whole level of depth that you have to go through to understand it. But for spoiler, there's only one link bonus you should care, and that is, see if I can find it. Oops. The only link bonus you should care is buff, debuff, level 2+. Alright, thank you for watching. I'll help you sheeple next time. Bye.